Hey everybody, Sean Seymour here. I'm going to show you in this video how to hold your camera properly so you don't get that shaky footage or blurry images in your photography. Also, I'm going to answer some questions from my Instagram followers. Questions like, what kind of editing software would you recommend for a beginning photographer? How do you get your floor so reflective and shiny? When first starting out, how do you suggest pricing your photography? That one's huge, probably the biggest question out there as far as photography goes. If you're interested in these things, we're gonna get started on it right now. Okay, so what's the best way to hold your camera and how do you hold your camera so you don't get blurry images and shaky footage in your videos? I realize that this probably seems very, very basic and rudimentary, but if you get this one thing wrong, all of your images will be blurry and you'll be asking yourself, why? Why is it blurry? I shot it at 200th of a second or 400th of a second and I'm still blurry. Some of it, believe it or not, is gonna be user error. I'm gonna use this old school camera right here to show you not only the origins of the way that we hold cameras now, but also explain some things that maybe you didn't know. This is a non-autofocus, meaning we had to focus back in the day. It is a camera that is a film camera, and what we'd have to do is hold it up to our heads and we'd have to focus on the action and then take the picture. That led to creating a very stable platform, which is just stick your elbow in your gut, your hand out like this, place the camera in your hand like that. See that? Pretty easy. The next thing you're gonna do is bring your fingers up to the side. The reason that we did that back in the day is because we had to focus the camera. So if I'm shooting sports, I have to be just like this and be able to get this thing dialed, click, 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 click. Okay, so that's where that came from. How does that apply to today? We're still making a nice platform, a nice stable base, only instead of it being focusing on a lot of lenses, it's zooming. So if you're holding the camera correctly, you're gonna be able to zoom back and forth really easily. See this? And I do this all the time when I'm in my shoots. I'll be zooming in and out just to make sure I'm getting the shot that I want. Stable platform, elbow in the gut or tummy. Put your hand out flat, put the camera on there. And then what I'm gonna do is, because Sarah, one of my assistants here at the studio, is brand new to holding the camera and taking images, and she actually had some images that were really cool, and then she had some that were sort of shaky, but they weren't out of focus. And the reason why is because she was moving the camera. So she and I decided to go outside during one of my shoots. We had a little downtime, and so we filmed this.
Testing. Good morning, welcome to Granite Bay High School.
You can hold the camera if you're just standing. We're also gonna cover if you wanna kneel. Also, unbelievable. See you walking past me down.
That's tiring.
When you're shooting video, if you're having really shaky footage, and we're talking about shake, one of the things you want to do is create as much mass as you can on the camera. So literally adding weight to your camera will help. I have this battery pack on my camera which helps. I look like a ninja or maybe a dancer right now. But move your body, not your hands. That's number one for shooting video. Okay, last thing I want to talk about are the straps on your camera. And put the strap around your neck and push against it and hold that tension. The strap will also act as connecting your body to the camera and creating more mass, and your shake will not be as much. Okay, so that will take care of your camera shake. If you're interested in how shutter speed plays a role in some of this stuff, I'm gonna make a tutorial. You should see it here right up in the corner. This corner, this corner. I don't know. You'll see a tutorial in one of these corners about shutter speed. The next thing I wanted to do was to get to some of the questions that my Instagram followers have asked. The first question that was asked is, what kind of editing software would you recommend for a beginning photographer? That's super easy for me. Lightroom and Photoshop. Adobe makes it so simple and inexpensive, 10 bucks a month. So you're talking 2 cups of coffee if you buy them at Starbucks. Hopefully I still have this correct, but $10 a month, you get both Lightroom and Photoshop. Now, how do these two programs work together? I would suggest Lightroom for organizing your images and light editing. I call light editing, is kind of a stupid way to put it, but you know, just a little bit of editing. You're not diving into the details here. Lightroom does a great job with things like color balance, bulk changes to your files, and exporting. But eventually, most of your images are going to be sent to Photoshop for finer tweaks. If you're just getting started, let me tell you something about Lightroom. You're likely going to want to go check out my other video on how to organize your files, back them up, and be able to find them years later. If you're just starting out in photography, don't skip over this part. Trust me, you gotta have this dialed in order to do anything in photography. So in this tutorial, I show you how to organize all of your files. And when you get a moment, check it out. It's definitely worth it, and it's about 20 minutes long, just to give you a heads up. You can do anything you want to an image inside of Photoshop. And a lot of the photographers that are out there use Photoshop for their finer tweaks, skin, retouching, composites, I mean, you name it. I'm drawing a total blank right now, but there's so much you can do. If you're interested in photography, anytime you spend learning Photoshop is going to be time well spent. You're going to use Photoshop for the rest of your photographic career. All right. Okay, moving on. The next question from my Instagram followers is, how did you get your studio floor so reflective? Let me tell you that it wasn't easy. I went through everything that you shouldn't do before I landed on everything that works. If you go on Amazon, and I'll have the link below in the description, you'll find a company called Colored Epoxies. Colored Epoxies by far makes the best floor finish that I've ever seen. I've gone to Home Depot, I've ordered stuff direct from Krylon, I've ordered stuff direct through local distributors that deal with concrete. I'm telling you right now, don't waste any of your money on that stuff. Go straight to Amazon, order Colored Epoxies in whatever color you want. They have multiple colors, and I personally use the 3-gallon kit, and to do my floor took 12 gallons. Super high gloss, as you can see from the photographs. I will probably do a completely separate video on this, because the one thing you need to know about this is do not mix too much at one time. I have a nice little boo-boo on my floor. It's because I mixed so much epoxy that the stuff started boiling, and I had like a 5th grade miniature volcano going on in a 5-gallon plastic bucket. I've got a tip for you though. If you're just a beginning photographer and you want to use rolled paper, or you are using rolled paper backgrounds, you can achieve this same look without having to go into Photoshop and mirror the image and do all the other stuff. If you don't want to do that amount of editing, go buy yourself a clear piece of plexiglass from Home Depot. Put it right on top of your paper background. Have them stand towards the back edge of the plexiglass, and you'll get a very similar look. Plexiglass, 10-foot paper rolls, lay that plexiglass over the paper roll on the floor, and you get the same kind of look. Okay, I did have a question about video, which I'm going to answer very quickly. A parent asked me, how do I take video at games? And what kind of camera should I use? Frankly, the answer is not in your camera, because I think basic camcorders, iPads, and all that work really well. You want to put your camera on a tripod, and you want to be able to pan smoothly. You just can't pan smoothly with a photography head on your tripod. You want the most fluid head that you can purchase. Fluid heads come with a longer handle. When you pan, it's much smoother than a photography tripod head. It's just gonna So that's my answer to that. Okay, last but not least, and probably the single most asked question on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere in the world that has anything to do with photography, is when you're first starting out, how do you suggest pricing your photography? And I have a suggestion for you that I think is going to save you a huge amount of time and will get you going on making money. To start off, I would suggest that you offer your services for free. And you offer your services for free in order to develop and get yourself a portfolio to show potential clients. Let me explain. Keep shooting for free and honing your craft. That part is super important. What I don't mean by hone your craft is become an expert in every aspect of photography before you can make money. The key here is you need to be able to reproduce consistent results within the type of photography that you want to charge your clients for. So when I'm saying build a portfolio of images you can show a client, I mean build a portfolio of images that's your best work that you can comfortably and readily reproduce for your clients time and time and time again. Until you get that kind of consistency, don't charge for it. There's no point, right? Okay, so what's my grand point here? My point is, if you want to earn money with photography, focus in on a specific type of photography that you think you're going to charge your clients for, and become an expert in that area so that you can reproduce results over and over and over again. This should really help you focus on what you want to learn while you're crafting your skill. and what is going to be a waste of time until you reach that goal. Anything you do in the meantime is just meandering around, trying to figure out what to do, try to figure out what sticks, try to figure out what kind of people like your stuff, whatever. It's just meandering around. You're just searching. Hone in and figure it out. Once you figured it out and you're making money and you can charge clients on a regular basis for reproducible results, then go and expand to other areas of photography, other interests in photography. But until you get that, be disciplined and focus on that one style of photography, that one type of photography that you want to do. All right, so why is that important? Because you go on YouTube, you take classes, you do all kinds of stuff, and you could spend hours on YouTube if you let yourself, but you don't want to spend hours on YouTube researching things that don't have anything to do with what you want to do to earn money. One last example, and then we'll move on. Let's say that I want to be a sports photographer, right? After learning the basics of how to use my camera, I'm going to focus the rest of my time and energy on learning everything I can about sports photography. That means I'm not buying a wide-angle lens and a bunch of filters to run out at sunset and take landscape photos in the evening. What it means is I'm going to a volleyball game with my telephoto lens. I'm going to sit in that volleyball game and I'm going to take different angles and I'm going to shoot down, shoot up. I'm going to shoot from the net, I'm going to shoot from the backs, I'm going to shoot deep in the court, I'm going to shoot shallow, I'm going to shoot right on their face. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to test out that whole arena with my sports photography and learn the ins and outs of becoming a sports photographer. Then I'm probably going to go back home, pull up YouTube, and find out what I did wrong and how I can improve it. That's focus. And that's how you can get paid for your photography in a very short period of time. Now, there's one other thing. After you've got your portfolio, and remember, your portfolio is your best work of the images that you can reproduce on a regular basis, time and time again. You're comfortable, you can walk in, you know what lights to set up, you know how it's gonna go, you know how to talk to the client. After you get that, send your portfolio to 10 different clients. If you get 4 or 5 of them saying yes, your price is perfect. If you get all of them saying yes, your price is too low. If you get 4 and under, 3, your price is too high. It's that simple. And that's how you figure out price. First get the portfolio, become proficient, and then send it out to 10 different people who are potential clients. My God, it's hot in here. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope those tips and tricks were helpful, just from the basics of how to hold the camera all the way down to how to price yourself as a new photographer. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. That tells YouTube that they should show it to some other people. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of my videos coming out, and also the bell notification will give you a notification when I have brand new videos out. Thank you very much, and until we see each other next time, keep it simple, my friend.
See you walking past me down the